It's Friday. It's midday, which can mean one thing and one thing only. It's Wow Ergonomics with me, Graham Cofe, and Stephen Howe. Stephen, how are
Hello.
you?
I'm good, Graham. How about you?
Fine. I just want to clear one thing up before we
Yes.
start, which is
Okay.
that we are wearing exactly the same clothes as last week. We have had a wash cycle in between,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
Um, I'm glad you pointed that out because something that I watch on TV, and I don't know whether you watch on TV, but do you watch Bake Off the Professionals?
No.
Right. Okay. So that show is supposed to be filmed over 2 days, but they always have the same clothes on the second day. And the question I've got is, do they go and get those clothes dry cleaned or washed, say on the Saturday night, ready for the Sunday? Or do they just put them on as they were on the Saturday? I always watched it and thinking, or they got two of exactly the same item. What do you think it is?
Or is it just all filmed at the same time and then you're told that that's when it's going out?
Which is probably the more likely one, but I just thought I've watched it and thought, I wonder what
Yeah.
they're doing. Anyway, sorry, I've completely sort of gone
No,
off
no, no,
piste
no,
there at the
no.
start of the
I
show.
think that happens a lot in so-called live TV. I honestly think that happens a
Mm,
lot in live TV, where actually
mm,
it's actually filmed over 2 or 3 days, and then it's
yeah,
scheduled to go out live over whatever, and actually nobody thinks about it and goes, do you know what, we need to make sure people change outfits so that
yeah.
actually it looks like it was over 2 or 3 days.
Mm.
They just hope that people forget between one episode and the next.
Now, the flip side to that, of course, sorry, I'm going completely away from ergonomics. We're sort of in TV and
I'll
costume
bring
now.
it back
But
round. I'll find a way. Don't
yeah,
worry.
no. But the flip side is something like Strictly Come Dancing, where it's all filmed on the Saturday, but the show that goes out on the Sunday, they've all changed costume or haven't they? So they don't. They sort of just. They've gone for the whole change, and I think that's what sort of messes with people's heads a bit, doesn't it? Like, okay, they've sort of changed during the show. So yeah, it's again, that's the thing. Me and you, same tops. Look where it's gone. We're all over the shop already. So
If you've been affected by this or any other changes of clothing
yes,
on live TV or on live streaming,
mm,
then please do write in. We'll give the postal address at the end of this episode,
yeah,
or not, as the case may
yeah,
be.
possibly not, possibly not.
Yeah, it's been summer holidays. It's been a long
Mm,
haul, as it always is, and I can remember that. I think the first time we did this throughout the summer holidays, and it was just that was very strange because it was summer holidays, but we'd had COVID, etc. So it
yes,
just there wasn't as much of a distinction. But
no.
you know, how have you found it in terms of working from home? Has it been
Mm.
quite disruptive when you've had conversations with people out and about? How are people coping with working from home whilst the kids are there?
Yeah, not too bad, I think. In the people I've spoken to, actually, I suppose the whole ethos of working from home has potentially taken away some of the stress for parents over the summer holidays. If you've got children who are a little bit more pliable and are happy to do something in another room without killing each other whilst you're working, it's sort of been a bit of a godsend. I think it's helped a lot of people out who potentially struggle with the fact that, they've got 5 weeks holiday but 13 weeks to cover. So I think it's probably helped a lot of people. I think for me, I've noticed it's quite difficult over the summer, as it always is, to actually get and see people. Because I think generally people are either off on holiday, or if they're not off on holiday themselves, they're covering a colleague who is off on holiday. So actually in a sales environment perspective, I always find the 6 weeks quite a challenge. And then the first couple of weeks of September, when the kids have gone back to school, you've then got all the people who haven't got kids, who then all want to get abroad because the prices drop and it's less busy, etc. So I do tend to find that sort of mid-July to mid-September, I suppose it almost reaches over 2 months, isn't an easy time to get out to see people. You won't see any trade shows, you won't see any trade fairs. Generally, that's a very, very quiet period of business. But then it sort of ramps itself up again early September, and then you've got the big sort of busy spell on the way up to Christmas.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I saw a post from someone the other day to say that their kids were already back. Because I think they were Scotland way, or they're going
Yes.
back this week.
Yeah.
And then that started me thinking, which is, you know, because we've had one of these, and there was also another conversation online as well about should we have an extra bank holiday about this, and then lots of people were responding saying, I think we've had enough bank holidays this year, thank you very much.
Yes.
But it got me thinking that in terms of that churn, but in terms of the economy as well, wonder what it would do if we actually geographically split locations up in the country and actually went, right, children in this area actually go on holiday then, children then go, and we staggered it. Would it make it worse? Would it make it better? Would it actually, what would it do in terms of holiday prices? What would it do in terms of, maybe, I don't know, supporting the economy more? It'd just be it's just interesting.
Yeah. Now, I don't know the full story, but I know it pretty well. But in the Netherlands, obviously where Bakkerelkhausen is based and was originated from, they split the country into three.
Right.
So I will get, what I'll do is if I get any of this wrong, I'll verify it and I'll drop it in the comments later just to sort of clarify it. But they break the country, I think, into north, central and south. And I think there is an element of staggering of the school holidays. Now, that's quite an interesting sort of concept, really, as you say. What impact does it have? I guess it sort of means there's more continuity of business in terms of having a big sort of drop where everyone goes off at the same time. Does it allow business to be a little bit more steady because you've only got a third of the country off at any one time? So I guess it would help sort of smooth demand out. But I'll find out a little bit more about that because, as I say, it is something they do. I wonder whether in a slightly smaller country from a population perspective, whether it's easier to manage. I guess for ourselves, being a larger country with a larger population, it may cause potentially more issues. For example, the Netherlands will have far fewer airports than we would have. So if we did it, would it have a knock-on effect on other parts of the economy? But it'd be quite interesting to think, what if they actually smoothed it out and we did a North, Midlands, South, Wales, Scotland, if we did something like that? It'd be quite interesting to see what impact it would have. But I do know from a business perspective, August can be very, 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 very quiet. So actually,
I also wonder whether there are business owners out there who might want to comment on this as you watch it during the week or hear it during the week. But I just wonder whether, if you could choose, if there wasn't the legislation there that stopped you having these conversations, if you could choose to say to your employees, I'd rather you took your holiday then because it actually suited the natural kind of highs and lows of the business. I wonder, are there times where you would want to say to your staff, I'd really, it'd be great if you took your holiday then because actually we're dead then.
Yeah.
So actually, what's the point of someone being in the office then? I'm sure it's intimated in a lot of businesses that there might be better times for you to go on holiday than other times. We would
prefer it if you didn't take holidays. A lot of companies I know prefer it if people don't take holidays sort of in the last quarter, don't they? If businesses are working that traditional January to December, there's always that big push at the end of the year, isn't it, to hit the numbers or sort of overachieve. And I do always think there's a reluctance for businesses, for people to sort of take holidays off in the back quarter of the year.
Yeah. And whilst we're continuing on this theme of holidays, because I find it fascinating, how do you feel within your business about taking holidays over long periods of time as well? I mean, personally, being self-employed, next week is the only week that actually I'm going to take a week off.
Yeah.
Right. Normally, my holidays, what I will do is tend to find like a week where there's is a bank holiday at the end of the week or whatever, and then maybe I'll take an extended weekend. So I might do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? So I'm really only missing one day, and
Yeah.
I don't tend to take any more. Normally throughout the year I'll take a few of those, so there'll be like 4 days, right? And then I'll take 1 week's holiday, but I won't take I will never ever take 2 weeks holiday.
No.
Never. And even actually when I was employed, I never took 2 weeks holiday, because for me it's just so disruptive to the business sense of like, oh, I've got to take a holiday now and I'm going to be out of the loop for 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was interesting. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't somebody I'm linked to or connected to on LinkedIn, but someone who I know commented, and it was quite interesting. And this probably is more sort of pertinent and relevant to smaller businesses like you've just mentioned there, Graham. But this lady was saying that I think she'd only been trading sort of 9 or 10 months, but August was the only, or going to be the first month where she'd actually lose money, simply because the clients who she worked with just aren't around in August. And it sort of ties back a little bit to what you were saying there before about smoothing out. So if there was a smoothing of holidays and we sort of did it in sections, would that help? You know, because ultimately, yeah, okay, I'm sure over the year she'll make a profit from what she's saying. But I think if you're a new business, a relatively small new business, you don't want to be having any month where you actually are seen to sort of be in the red, as it were. So, you know, again, I wonder if some consideration for small businesses and entrepreneurs and things like that, would that benefit the smaller businesses by doing something? Are they the most impacted because they're less cash rich? Yeah. So actually, would we be able to sort of a bit of a shot in the arm for the smaller businesses if we could do something to slightly manipulate the holidays on a regionalised basis?
I just wonder whether there needs to be a little bit more flexibility in the whole system. I mean, even looking at holiday destinations, one of the things that we found. I mean, I booked the other day for my wife's birthday. We're gonna go away somewhere, Ilfracombe, for a couple of days in a beach hut type. Yeah, thank you. It's you know, hope she appreciates it. But sure yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, though, that actually looking for places where you can book maybe over like 2 or 3 days as opposed to a week, that actually really restricts down. You just wonder whether, like, given the changes that have happened over the last few years, whether or not we and how many more people are now self-employed, do some holiday places need to start looking at it and go, actually, we need to adapt. We need to, maybe on this campsite, for example, we have packages where, if it's caravans, for example, we have caravan packages where it's a week or whatever. But actually, this whole area over here, this is designated to, 3 days, 2 days, whatever. Yeah. So that actually there's more available where you can just book it short term. So that actually people that don't have the availability in their pocket to be able to go away for longer holidays can perhaps take more short breaks throughout the year. I've just think, is it keeping up? That's of interest. And another conversation, that actually brings in the kind of ergonomic side of things as well, and I think it's quite interesting. Was I did a poll during the week which actually got a little bit of a backlash from some people, which I found was quite interesting. Which was I talked about using pins and restrictions on various bits of tech, predominantly around children. And I found this really interesting, that some people were like, well, you shouldn't actually be putting any kind of restrictions on anybody in terms of their use of tech.
Oh, yes.
Right. But I just found that whole thing interesting, because obviously I can see both sides of the argument, swings and roundabouts. Yeah, yes, I think it's good that we educate people around tech and maybe get them to make including children, maybe get them to make their own decisions. And some of the responses I said back were like, but even as adults, like some of us need actually something to remind us.
Yeah.
I mean, you can educate someone till you're blue in the teeth, but actually quite clearly from what we've seen, right? And you wouldn't even have pieces of software that do it if that was the case. Sometimes you have to have a bit of tech that actually tells you, you've been sat here for hours, my friend.
Yeah. I saw something the other day, and I can't remember which national broadcaster it was, but it was talking about, it was along the lines of, it's not how long they're on the device, it's what they're looking at. And it was almost trying to almost justify kids spending a lot of time on the device as long as they were watching something that was quite educational. And I thought, you're missing the point there. You're missing the point totally. You've got to encourage people to do other things. You've got to encourage breaks. If you're, just because it's educational, doesn't mean they're not going to develop musculoskeletal issues because what they're learning about is educational. So I felt as if, again, I'll look into it and I'll drop back in the comments as to what it was at a later point. But it just got me thinking. And I thought, I think you've missed the point there, or you're pushing out the wrong narrative, because parents and employers' concern is the length of time the children or employees are spending on the tech without taking breaks, not what they're actually doing. So again, I'll find that, but it sort of got me. I sort of listened to it and I had to sort of process it again and thinking, did I get that right? And I'm pretty, and I just thought that was quite interesting. The way the angle was coming from that was almost trying to justify it's okay spending longer on tech as long as they're watching something educational. Well, I think you've missed the point there.
Yeah, it's a similar way to what, I was surprised actually at some of the kind of comments back around sort of like, almost being a sort of a very aggressive state to actually put a pin on a device. But I just wonder actually, for all of us, maybe just having more things that actually, or more gates to the technology that actually remind us, like we are now starting to engage with the technology. The time is now up. We've spent half an hour on this technology. Perhaps we should go and make a cup of coffee. Perhaps we should go for a walk or whatever. Is that actually wrong? And I'll be frank as well. It's fine for people to say, yes, what we should do is we should, in the middle of a busy day, communicate all of this with a child or whatever. But actually, a lot of people are having to work at the same time as look after their children. Yeah. There is not the childcare there. It's not, and it's not neglect. It's not, it's those children are being looked after, but do you know what? Growing up, I was left for long periods alone during the day while my parents worked, and I had to amuse myself. I had to find something to do. I thought that was actually, it's really good for you. Yeah. Maybe we spend too long actually, trying to find something for our kids to do, and actually maybe it helps them grow up. Just saying, could go both ways, but maybe it actually helps them grow up if they develop their own sense of independence.
And is that poll still open, Graham? Is it one of yours that's closed down? Is that
it's still open?
Votes and comments?
It's still open. Yeah, but I just thought it was interesting, and I wonder. You see how many, because of that, I wonder then how many people are quite opposed to any kind of locking down of technology at work. If people think that about locking down kids' technology, potentially, are there people out there that are thinking it's wrong to lock down technology, or it's wrong to say, now maybe it's time to come off of this now?
You'd like to think there's not many people out there, but I bet there are. I bet there are those companies and those managers who are like, no, No, we're not locking it down. No, need to get our, get our pound of flesh out of them. So no, we're going to keep pushing them, despite what you're told. They'll just carry on doing that. So there's bound to be people who still think that is the way to work and the way to
will
operate.
part of their justification be, actually, this is about human rights. It's about allowing someone, if someone wants to work 20 hours a day and never come off their screen or whatever, actually that's their right to choose as a human, that's the thing to do. But I wonder, is that actually human rights, or is that actually poor management?
Human wrongs. Human wrongs, not human rights.
Just throwing that into the equation.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think as we come out of the summer? What do you think we're going to hear most about in terms of problems ergonomics wise?
Good question. I've seen a lot of companies and people talking about getting people, not the ditching of working from home, but certainly that idea we all had that people would be spending 1 or 2 days at home. I've sort of picked up on a couple of conversations and narratives where people will be going back to the office more full time than we maybe thought it would be. So I think the interesting thing from that will come is, if they were set up correctly at home, is the office set up correctly for them? Or vice versa, does it expose what they didn't have at home versus what they've now got in the office? So that there has to be things that will come out. So as I say, the thing for me will be that mass return to the office. That it isn't going to be mass, but there certainly is a lot more companies want people back in 5 days. So it's going to be that, what problems are going to be uncovered as they come back to the office, and actually does it then expose what they haven't got at home versus what they've got in the office? So I think a lot more of that's going to become, that clash is going to become quite apparent, Graham, just from what I'm hearing and picking up from people, and some of the little bit, the sort of the projects we're hearing about. Actually, the interesting thing is, on a positive note, some of the projects we're being asked to get involved in are companies investing in new kit for the office.
Yeah.
So it very clearly is, we want people back in the office.
I think, I can understand why people would want to go back to an office. I think there's a lot of reasons why people might want to go back to a communal area. The grey area that I have on it is, I just hope that in doing that, people have talked to their people.
Yeah.
That for me is the fundamental issue here. In getting people back to the office, have you taken time? And you've had time, right?
Oh, you've had loads of time.
Listen, folks out there, if you're getting your people back to the office, you've had years now, because it has been years. You've had years to talk to your people, not just your people, but your clients, other stakeholders as well, and actually find out what they all want. So I hope that people have done that. And I think the most interesting one of those, outside of the staff piece, is the customers. I think it's really, really important that any business has actually spent time talking to their customers about, what do you want your customer, what do you want from us as a business? Because if your clients tell you that actually they've had a better quality of customer service or experience or whatever since your people have been working from home, you need to be thinking about whether or not taking all of your people back to the office is the right thing to do. And also I think what's interesting is we heard about that phrase, the sort of the mass resignation that went on during periods of COVID, but actually you could almost get a second wave of it by pushing people back to the office. Like you say, people need to understand and engage with their people, because if they pitch it wrong and it doesn't work for their people, they're then going to get a whole load of other waves of resignations, aren't you? Because they're going to go, actually,
you're doing it, but you're not doing it for the right reasons, and you're not doing the right way. So we're off. So companies have got to be really, really careful.
I think it could be quite interesting to see how that pans out. Be lovely to hear your viewpoints on that as well.
Yeah,
are you getting
absolutely.
your people back to the office, or are they staying more hybrid working or working from home? How are you going forward? Have you had conversations with your staff? What are they saying? What are they telling you? The other topic that I'm hearing, and I've been involved in some of those conversations as well, that is clearly going to impact, I think, our industry, is there's quite a lot of conversation at the moment between people in occupational health and those that are in vocational rehabilitation. And I think that's really interesting as well, that there's been a kind of recognised need that going forward, those two areas need to come closer together. And I think that's going to have a massive impact, because, and it kind of fits in very much to what we've been saying for a long time about people working in silos. And I'm hearing more and more sort of shifts towards, we really need to look at, within that as well, we really need to look at the assessment process again. We really need to look at DSE again. We really need to look at, just the whole way that we approach support of individuals within the workplace, because ultimately we have been doing this in silos, and we're not necessarily even starting, and this was a really interesting conversation I had yesterday, really not necessarily even starting at the right place.
Right, okay.
Which I think is really, really interesting. So we had a great conversation. I won't say too much about it because it's going to go out as a podcast, but had a great conversation where, as part of that conversation, we were talking about maybe, actually, for a lot of people, the vocational rehabilitation piece actually needs to come up front rather than maybe tagged on to the end when it's all kind of too late.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
In other words, this person's, are we having better conversations with people at work about what might be stopping them from working effectively? Are we having that more up front rather than waiting for a problem to happen? But also then, if we know that there's a problem there, are we talking to them? You've got a child coming through the door.
I think there's a problem there, Graham. I don't know about any other problems. So
yeah, but are we talking to them about how are you going to get to work? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? Basic things of living before we even start on the workplace bit. He's desperate to come in.
He's desperate to be in the show. I know.
Do you know what? He's going to be on the show any minute now. Who is that?
That's Callum.
Hello, Callum. Nice to see you.
Do you want to say hello?
Do you want to say hello?
No. There we go.
He's there now. Yeah, there we go.
You mentioned at the start of the show the pleasures of childcare and the summer holidays, and we're ending the show with an example of this is what we have to go through.
Well, do you know what, though? At least you're not turning around swearing at him and getting a nanny to pull him out the door.
No. Oh, that was that guy, wasn't it, at the very start of it all? So
yeah, well, the one that was on the on BBC News or something that was, it was like swearing away at his son and whatever. It's like, it was a great way
I'm resisting swearing.
Great, showing great company culture. But yeah, what do you think about that in terms of? Do you think it's quite interesting that the professional bodies are beginning to recognise that actually there needs to be sort of closer synergy between what's happening?
I think you said it before. You mentioned the word silos. I think that's what we're seeing is companies and departments that have worked in silos previously now need to start coming together. I think that they recognise they have to do that. They can't carry on operating as they have been if they want to give the most effective sort of resolution and outcome. So absolutely, yeah, I think, and it'd be interesting to see, a number of people we've had on this show. I think it'd be interesting over the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, to get our sort of friends from the assessment community, get our friends from the OH community, I'm thinking the likes of Claire Henson Bowen and, like Ross Nichols, Chris Barlow. It'd be interesting to get those guys back on and see what changes are they seeing and what are they experiencing, the changes that we think are going to be happening.
There we go. Well, we're wrapping up, folks, another show, another short one again today, because we want you to spend, as we said at the end of last show, we want you to spend as much of your summer holiday that you've got left, that tiny bit of time left with your family and friends. Callum clearly wants his dad to do something on an iPad or something.
Absolutely.
It's the PIN number, isn't it? He's after.
Yeah, for my credit card, probably.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Cash.
It's amazing, isn't it? Do you know what? That is a funny thing. My kids are always asking me to buy something online for them these days, right? And whatever. It never feels like you're actually spending money, does it? It just feels like you just feel like the expense is with your kids. Not necessarily with the company, and then later you look at your bank statement, you go, "What on earth was that?"
Absolutely. It's too easy.
You can't make any kind of cerebral connection between you have actually spent that money with somebody and the purchase moment. Whereas when you go in, that's what I still love about shops, and that's why I still will continue to go to shops to this day. And when you've actually spent money in shops, because you come out with a bag of something. Yeah, it's far too easy. Folks, have a lovely week. Look after yourselves out there. We will be back with a full length wow next time, so that you can hear us jabber away to our heart's content. We will be bringing on some more guests. Have a great rest of the summer holidays, if you've got some more summer holidays left, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. From Stephen, myself, and Callum. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.